You had us standing here guaranteeing to the public and the world that even if fraud is committed, we would be able to trace it. We never said that fraud could not be committed, but you said we could trace it. And now you tell me that at 10 in the evening you could do it and we would never know.
No, sir. I stand by our product and we can trace everything that we do.
This is a big one here, and you're not going to hear the mainstream media covering it. It is that damaging to the Democrat Party, and it is outrageous. As a matter of fact, do you remember what happened in 2020 that sent Joe Biden to the White House and how everybody was questioning it, and they were blasted and made to look like they were silly and being anti-American for questioning it? Well, in this video, finally, you're going to get 100% factual proof about what went on and how China and Venezuela are involved. FBI has the information. It's already been sent over to Senator Chuck Grassley. Now, there was a letter that was sent to President Trump within the last few days, and it was sent by Hugo Carvajal, and he is the former spy chief, the chief of spies from Venezuela, the right-hand man to Hugo Chavez and the right-hand man to Maduro. And in that letter, because he's here serving 21 years in prison for the T-wordism, we caught him and hold him accountable. You didn't even know it probably because the media didn't cover it. But he wrote a letter to President Trump. And in that letter, he dropped some heat. He talked about the operatives that are here. He talked about how Venezuela opened up the prisons to send their people here, like President Trump been saying. And the Democrats tried to say, oh, it's a lie. He's making it up. No, we've got the spy chief from that country admitting it happened. But even more crucial, the voting machines, Smartmatic. Now, I remember when people were questioning Smartmatic and Dominion, and they were getting sued left and right, that $1 billion suit against Fox News. Well, now we find out that even the lawsuits were funded by Democrat leftists, that not even the politicians, the business owners, the founder of LinkedIn, allegedly. And everything in this video is alleged, even though there's factual proof that you're going to see. No more about, oh, speculation or me just talking about it. You're going to see the footage. You're going to hear it for yourself. But Reid Hoffman funded these folks to attack anybody that spoke out about the machine's ability to tabulate votes or be frauded. As a matter of fact, you're going to see the creator, the founder of Smartmatic, who is right now being held for bribery in the Philippines. You're going to hear about his participation and what they've done here in the United States. So just buckle up. Check this news clip out, and then I'm going to let you hear how the Philippine government is talking to them and how they're handling behind these machines and the fraud and the tampering that's going on. And wait till you hear just how easy it is for them to go in and manipulate. Check this out. This is big. It impacts us in more ways than people know. This is why President Trump is pushing the paper ballots. This is why we got to get away from the machines, because in this video is factual proof of what was going on. But check this out.
Federal prosecutors have just indicted a co-founder of the Smartmatic voting machine company. The feds say he and several others took part in a bribery and money laundering scheme in the Philippines. Here's national correspondent William Lajeunesse.
Well, Jillian, Smartmatic has sued Fox News and its parent company in a separate civil lawsuit. Now, according to this indictment, Smartmatic president Roger Alejandro Penate Martinez and two other executives paid at least $1 million in bribes to obtain a contract to provide voting machines to the Philippines. They, quote, allegedly funded the bribes through a slush fund that was created by over-invoicing the cost per voting machine for the 2016 Philippine elections, and caused the creation of fraudulent contracts and sham loan agreements to justify transfers. The money was allegedly laundered through multiple bank accounts, then paid to the former chief of the Philippine Election Commission, Juan Andres Donato Batista. According to the indictment, the Philippine government signed contracts totaling $182 million for services and the sale or lease of some 90,000 electronic voting machines. The indicted executives and others created and used slush funds to, among other things, pay bribes to Batista, including by, quote, over-invoicing or inflating the cost per voting machine for the May 2016 Philippine elections with additional fees of $50 and $10 per unit. Penate and other executives are each charged with one count of conspiracy to violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and 3 counts of international money laundering. Now, in response, the company posted this on X, quote, Smartmatic has learned that 2 of our employees have been indicted for alleged violations of the FCPA in the Philippines almost 10 years ago. Regardless of the veracity of the allegations, and while our accused employees remain innocent until proven guilty, we have placed both employees on leaves of absence effective immediately.
Okay, so you heard that, right? Now, here he is, Pinate, in the Philippines. Okay, now after this, I'm gonna let you see all of the evidence that the FBI has and how Venezuela and China are tied in to machines and ballots for the U.S. elections. But check this out. They about to blast this guy.
So what you're saying, what you're telling us is that the server is the one that dictates whether it will accept the message or not, irrespective of the time being used by the sender.
The server is not looking at the time, but rather the digital signatures and the contents of the package being generated by the PICO. So if the
But
package,
if that's the case, Mr. Chairman, what's the use of having a time as far as the PICO sender is concerned? What's the purpose of the time if that is immaterial?
the time gives you the sequence of the actions, and when you actually
Yes,
look,
but this, if I may interrupt, as Congressman Goles says, if this sequence can be delayed to 10 in the evening, what the heck? My God.
sir,
Your assurance was that anything that happens between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. would be reflected as 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I didn't know that 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. could be moved to 10 in the evening. You realize what a fool you have made
sir,
of the legislators who passed this law?
I understand, sir. With all due respect, it's an unforeseen situation. It's one of those,
Unforeseen?
yes, sir.
That was the principal guarantee that this would be an honest election, that we would know digitally what would happen during election day and during the election hours.
And you do, sir, if I may.
No, I'll forget that. The sons of bitches. You had us standing here guaranteeing to the public and the world that even if fraud is committed, we would be able to trace it. We never said that fraud could not be committed, but you said we could trace it. And now you tell me that at 10 in the evening you could do it and we would never know.
No, sir. I stand by our product, and we can
Son
trace
of a
everything
bitch.
that we do.
If you're enjoying this video, do me a solid. Hit that thumbs up because I'll never ask you for a cash app or a super chat or a donation. You hitting that like button, it does help the channel get the video out there. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And once you do, make sure you hit the notification bell and select all. That way YouTube will make sure you get notified when I upload new videos. You heard it. So in other words, he promised them, hey, listen, guys, if anything ever happens, any fraud happens, you could tell it. It leaves a footprint, blah, blah, blah. And just for them to find out that no, that wherever the headquarters are, there's always somebody in the background that could go in, manipulate, and change things that left no digital footprint where they would have no idea that there was manipulation that went on in their elections. Sound familiar? Because in the 2020 election, we had more votes, more voters than ever before in the history of this country by about 16 million. 16 million. Then in 2024, it goes right back down to normal. Now, with Trump being the so-called existential threat and Hitler and all of this stuff, you mean to tell me that as ravaged and Trump deranged as the Democrats were, 16 million decided to sit it out? I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Coincidentally, at the same time that we're using these certain machines, and check out what's happening to anybody that spoke back. Democrat billionaire secretly pumped 24 million into Smartmatic to fund lawsuits to muzzle news outlets. Fox News and Newsmax reported concerns about the security of Smartmatic's vote tabulators. A recently unsealed court filing reveals that Smartmatic CEO Antonio Mujica secretly met with Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, to secure funding for lawsuits aimed at silencing the networks and others investigating electronic voting machine safety. Smartmatic concealed the meeting and funding from the court and defendants. Additionally, in August of 2024, a federal grand jury indicted Smartmatic executives for allegedly engaging in bribery and money laundering. So even here, bribery and money laundering. But he's got enough to worry about over in the Philippines. Now, here's the footage that I really wanted you to see. Buckle up, because this right here goes deep. And yes, it's a little long, but it's extremely important. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it up full screen for you because I want you to be able to watch this and see everything as clearly as I was. Check this out and try not to be too shocked. I want to take a minute to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video and partner of the channel, Chapter. Now, seniors, right now, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on with your Medicare, because in January, the prices are going to increase 10%, and that's $215 that'll be taken out of your Social Security check. And you don't have, it doesn't have to be that way. You want to make sure that you have the best Medicare plan available, because some doctors are not going to be in network after the first of the year. Some prescriptions may no longer be covered. You want to make sure that you protect yourself. Call Chapter and speak to one of the highly skilled and unbiased professionals in a free phone call that goes as fast as 20 minutes. In less than 20 minutes, you can get the information to make sure you got the best Medicare plan available, because it would suck to look up next year and find out your doctor's not in network and your prescriptions are no longer covered. So why wait? Call that number on the screen or visit the website at askchapter.org/realpolitics and make sure that you are protected today.
2020 FBI intel memo warning that China might have been sending fake driver's licenses in to create fake mail-in ballots to help Joe Biden win. Last night, I got the text of the memo. I put it up for everybody so you can read it at justthenews.com. There's a busting headline in here. When the FBI called this back, so they have this intel. It's corroborated by licenses that are intercepted by Customs and Border in Border Protection in Chicago. But they call it back anyways and decide we're just not going to investigate this because this would look good for Trump, bad for Biden. They ask all intelligence agencies to destroy the intelligence report that the FBI actually sent them. As a Federal Records Act, you're not supposed to do that. But they wanted it destroyed. Why? Because they probably didn't want it to leak out before the election that China preferred Joe Biden over Donald Trump. 60 Minutes aired a piece with the head of the Homeland Security Cybersecurity Division saying there were no foreign intrusions in the 2020 election. It was a perfectly clean election, he said. I think it was Chris Krebs was his name. We now know that to have been a false proclamation. First, we know a year later in 21, a bunch of Iranians were indicted in Manhattan on charges that they interfered in the election and hacked into a state database to obtain voter IDs and use them in a mal-influence operation against the American election.
Well, we did subpoena Mike Frontera, Dominion's lawyer, but they found a way to not let us have our witnesses. What Jenna did, though, that since at least June, those BIOS passwords, 670 of them, from 63 counties out of the 64 counties in Colorado, have been on the public website for the Secretary of State, which means they were out there for anybody to grab. She should be locked up, and they should throw away the key and let me loose.
Yeah, we need a prisoner swap.
Yeah, for sure.
So you think that this election in Colorado was definitely compromised because of the leaked passwords?
Oh, always. I mean, in Mesa County, they were finding fraudulent ballots. They were finding the same person was signing the ballot envelopes, and they brushed it off like it was nothing. And as a matter of fact, what Jenna Griswold did with the passwords, she knew while I was going through the trial that was out there and did nothing.
So those passwords were leaked out there during your trial before your sentencing?
They were out there since June, but she knew about it and didn't tell the clerks about it. And now she's apologizing to the clerks. She should apologize to the American people, or at least the people in Colorado. But there were other passwords besides just for Colorado, I've heard, for the United States in there for Dominion machines.
So you think some of our other elections in other states could be compromised because of leaked passwords for the Dominion machines?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what's going on with the cartel in Arizona and Michigan. And, you know, I was so happy when I saw Florida for Trump and all these other places. But just remember, Dominion's headquarters is in Colorado, Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
And also, most people don't know that Dominion is out of Serbia as well. And then if you can play that video by Gary Brunson, the 30-year CIA whistleblower, you will, or look at the transcript, you'll see exactly how this all started with Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. And that's why this stuff with Patrick Byrne and all that's coming out, it leads all the way back to Venezuela and then the corruption worldwide.
Now we know there was a second country that was more deeply involved in meddling into the election. The FBI in August 2020, so 3.5 months before the votes were cast that put Joe Biden in the presidency, that FBI believed that China had begun a mass operation to produce fake U.S. driver's licenses, move them to the United States, and have Chinese citizens here on our soil, both legally and illegally, go out and get fake mail-in ballots and vote to try to to elect Joe Biden. By the way, the FBI intelligence says this Chinese operation from a Chinese intelligence source that the FBI was handling was designed to help Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. It's very important. That was the intention.
Sensational video and photo evidence has emerged, exposing a factory in Guangdong producing 500,000 blank American ballots. The Gateway Pundit, an online news publication, confirmed that the video was provided by Vanessa A. Olivides, a third-generation member of the Chinese Communist Party. Vanessa tweeted on November 9 that the printing plant in Guangdong, China, was printing out fake ballots, which were then mailed to Canada and Mexico under the name of medical supplies between August and October 2020, and from there flown into the United States. The released video of the phone call to a Chinese manufacturer requesting a bulk order of fake US 2020 ballots has been revealed by the Gateway Pundit. Here is the translated recording between the caller and the ballot printing company.
对啊，因为你仔细看一下，它那个选票的那个印刷是不一样的。
那个没关系，我会看着那个图片来做这边。
然后到时候你们这边发物流的话怎么发？因为我这边订的话就是大量的订这样子。
大量订那个发物流的话，应当也好像也要好几天哦，物流比较慢。
发国际可以吗？
我看一下，发国际好像也是走物流啊。
可以走是吧？
Did you notice Fulton County, Georgia? Fannie Willis's district? Wow.
The intelligence was strong enough to send out to all of the intelligence agencies, and then a few days later, it was called back on the auspices that they wanted to re-interview the source. Now, the source was re-interviewed a second time, stuck to his story. In the meantime, the Customs and Border Patrol, Border Protection Agency, intercepted 20,000 of these fake driver's IDs, essentially corroborating the intelligence. But the Biden administration, the Chris Wray FBI, they simply covered this up. And for 5 years, we were kept in the dark until this intelligence document was sent last night to Chuck Grassley from Kash Patel. China saw mail-in ballots as an enormous vulnerability during the COVID-19 pandemic. And our enemies look for weaknesses, not for strengths. They don't look for the hardest thing to do. They look for the easiest thing to do to us. That is a warning sign. Now, lots have happened since 2020, and with all of the voter ID and other things, we've tightened up laws in several states. And where we've tightened up the laws in the states, people vote more because they have greater confidence in the system. But China saw this as an exploitable operation, and I think that should concern all of us. And in any state that doesn't have their mail-in voting to the proximal best security measures, there's a foreign enemy looking to exploit it right now.
This morning, HSI Miami, along with our state and federal partners, FDLE, DSS, and USCIS, arrested a permanent resident who is a Haitian national and a convicted aggravated felon. He was arrested for unlawful voting and casting a false ballot.
This evidence demonstrates, and it's through eyewitness testimony that's been corroborated by others through their eyewitness statements, that 130,000 to 280,000 completed ballots for the 2020 general election were shipped from Bethpage, New York to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where those ballots and the trailer in which they were shipped disappeared.
At this point in time, we have already confirmed tens of thousands of fake voters, of illegally cast ballots, and I'm speaking about the November 3rd election. And think of how that would affect the down ballot voting also. We're talking senators, congressmen, local elections. It's affecting all the ballots.
Now, on the heels of that, here's what Tulsi Gabbard and President Trump, what they're doing. Check this out.
I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast. which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating.
So there you have it, y'all. I wanted to bring you this information because, you know, and I have a documentary that's being worked on right now that really goes over the last 25 years of elections and what's been happening gradually in every election cycle, and just how the main party always talking about, oh, there's no there there, and there's nothing to see here. They always cry that until they lose. And it'll be coming. I'll make sure you know. But tell me in the comments what you think about this. No more speculation. Did you see that the Chinese factories were printing? They had the election ballots with the boxes on where they were going. 200,000 or so ballots were shipped from New York to Pennsylvania. And then we saw the video back in the day with the people pulling luggage out from under tables and stuffing boxes with a whole bunch of stuff. And we were told, oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. And when people always say how, oh, Trump was losing the court cases, not true. What was happening is the judges were refusing to hear the evidence, refusing, because if they never got to see the evidence, they can never be accused of tanking the case or being favorable with the evidence in front of them. So if they didn't see it, they can say, nope, nothing to see here. There was no type of fraud. Don't even present it. Cast in my decision. And that's what they were doing. Now, why would they be doing that? Because they're Democrat shills. They're working on behalf of this socialist communist party whose objective it is to destroy the American way of life and to make everybody a slave to the small group of power brokers that tell us when we eat, tell us how much we eat, what we make, where we live, and where we travel and move. That is their ideal situation. That is their ideal scenario. They have a bunch of minions working while they just live lavish, and and it's the most insane thing in the world. And if you ever seen the movie 1984, that is a Democrat utopia. And they're working with people like Soros and Maduro, these socialist countries, these communist dictators. As you heard, China wanted Biden to win. Why? We see why. They had spy balloons flying over. And do you know that Senator Mark Kelly, the member of the Seditious Six, actually had a balloon company that he was running with the Chinese? So he's telling our military, don't disobey orders. And I got a video about to drop on him too, because the court martial is coming down this week from what I understand. But hey, I'm going off tangent. I just wanted to bring you this to show you what's going on, to show you that President Trump is fighting for our election integrity. And there's so much stuff being revealed all at once. They cannot just go and pick everybody up at one time. There's no way to do that and prosecute effectively. No matter how big the government is, each case, and they're spread out. You're going to have radical judges trying to block it. You got a lot going on. So remember, it's only 10 months into into this term. He still got 3 years and 2 months left. We got to get us through the midterms. That's why the midterms are so important. If the Democrats take power, it'll be these shady machines and they will win forever. So if you've stayed and you watched it up to this point, I thank you from the top and bottom of my heart, because this video wasn't some juicy political sparring. This was strictly information. And if you were one of the ones that were able to make it to the end, that chose to make it to the end, you are an uncommon breed. You are special. You really do give a dang. And I know it probably baffles your mind and your heart that you say, what can I do to make sure that our country does not get overran? And you probably say, God, please help us. How are you letting this happen? Because if you felt that way, I have too. And great minds think alike. So if you haven't already, hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed already, subscribe. And most importantly, make sure that you stay safe and that you be great. I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.